Hi everyone, my name is Heather. Welcome to my channel. I hope you've been doing well. Today I would love to chat with you about the books that I intend to read for the months of October and November. These will include my son and my read-aloud books, and it will also include my Victober reading. I've decided this year to try and do the Victober challenge. I don't know if I can make it all, but I think I can hit most of the challenges in about 4 books. In fact, if you read Christina Rossetti's poem just now, then you've already completed one of the challenges, which I'll tell you about shortly. One of the things I love about October is how breezy it gets. We start to get our autumn storms towards the end of October. And I also saw this poem by Christina Rossetti. She's a Victorian author, and I fell in love with it. I have it in this book, A Year of Poetry, that's illustrated by Anne Graham Johnston, whose illustrations I just love. I love all of the poems in this book, but the one that grabbed my attention for this video was this October one. Who has seen the wind? Neither I nor you. But when the leaves hang trembling, the wind is passing through. Who has seen the wind? Neither you nor I. But when the trees bow down their heads, the wind is passing by. Anyway, I thought that was just so beautiful. So I decided to theme this video after the wind. Our grapes are fruiting at the moment. We have this beautiful Concord grape vine that I planted when we first moved here, and it's doing well. It kind of hangs down from our stairs, our back stairs, and they not only taste purple, they smell purple. It smells exactly like grape bubblegum. It's just the most amazing scent. Our first frost advisory is tonight. The days have been rather warm, but the nights have been steadily growing colder and colder, and tonight is the first night where we might have a killing frost. So I went ahead and picked a lot of the flowers from my garden, including the polar bear zinnias that I have shown you the seed packets from Hudson Valley Seed Company. So today I'm drinking my cardamom chai tea, so I'm just going to take a sip and we'll get started. Oh, so good. Let me have another one of those. 2 books that we've been reading that we have just been loving. The Secret of the Ruby Ring, and it is just wonderful. It's set in Ireland, and it's about a girl who goes back in time to Victorian Ireland, and it is just wonderful. It kind of gives you that upstairs downstairs thing that you get with shows like Downton Abbey, for example, which, by the way, I went to go see the Downton Abbey movie last weekend, and it was so good. I really loved it. It's just a really wonderful book. I photographed it yesterday, and I'll be putting it on my Instagram account either tomorrow or the next day. And the other book that we've been reading for Read Aloud, and that is Johnny Tremain. My son is so into this book. He is absolutely loving it. It turns out it's quite a good book to read in the autumn, because up until now, we're kind of in the middle. It's all been set during the autumn. I guess it starts really late August, and it's just the beginning of December now. There's quite a few passages with wonderful autumnal description by Esther Forbes. Yeah, I am just really enjoying it. Both he and I are really into it. He wants me to read one more chapter, please, please, please. He wants to know what happened. And it's really nice when we come across figures from history like Sam Adams and Paul Revere and John Hancock. To see them in a novel, in fiction, is really great. So yeah, we've really been enjoying Johnny Tremain. So I'll continue with just chatting about the books that we intend to read for Read Aloud over the next couple of months. I have 3 of them here, and I have about 3 more that are still on the way. I'll tell you the ones that are on the way. We plan to read Enid Blyton's Magic Faraway Tree. We're also planning to read a book called Just David by Eleanor H. Porter. She is the author of Pollyanna, and I think it's our 1910s spot, or is it the 1920s? Maybe, I think it's the 1910s spot that we are reading Just David in, and it looks very interesting. And then the other one we plan to read is Scary Stories for Young Foxes in the City. I'll hopefully have them all by my next video so I can share them with you. The other ones that we want to read, I've shown you guys When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit. We're just finishing up our summer autumn list. This was the 1970s, and I picked it up in Paris when we were at Smith & Sons, and I was so excited to find this one because I really loved this cover, especially because it has the Eiffel Tower on it. We're looking forward to reading that one. This one might be the next one we read. And then soon after that, we'd like to read O. Henry's The Ransom of Red Chief, as well as maybe some of the other stories by O. Henry. This copy that I found does not have any illustrations, so I might replace it if I can find a copy that has illustrations. But if not, that's quite all right. I'll just continue with this one. But yeah, I wanted to get some O. Henry stories into our read-aloud time, so I'm looking forward to that. The Ransom of Red Chief is very, very slim. I believe this is our 1900s read, but it has other stories that look very interesting, like one called Witches' Loaves and The Last Leaf. And then going into the holiday season, you have some of his short stories like The Gifts of the Magi. Although I think for that one, I definitely want to get an illustrated version because there are so many pretty illustrated versions of The Gifts of the Magi. So there's quite a few stories in here that I think will resonate with the autumn season. That's one that we'll be doing for Read Aloud. And then I'm so sorry, this one is quite beat up. I found it in a book box, but I've been wanting to read The Great Turkey Walk by Kathleen Carr, and it's not illustrated. This one is one that I've really been interested in because last year a wonderful graphic novel came out, and that's how I became aware of it. It seems to be about a boy who doesn't do very well in school, and he's tried to pass his grade for I think 4 years now or something. And his teacher finally says, you know what, this just isn't working, it's time for you to find something else to do. And so he kind of starts his own business where he transports turkeys somewhere. So I think that's what it's about. I'm not really sure. That's just from what I read on the back a little bit. So I'm very excited to read The Great Turkey Walk with my son, and we'll probably do that close to Thanksgiving for obvious reasons. And then the final book I wanted to share with you is Rip Van Winkle and Other Stories. So we've read Rip Van Winkle. By Washington Irving, by the way, but we have not read some of the other stories, and so I thought we could read a couple of the other stories. One of them in here that really intrigues me is called Legend of a Storm Ship, and I marked some illustration to show you. It actually looks to be kind of a funny story, maybe. I don't know from looking at the illustrations, but the illustrations are done by Suzanne Suba, and she is from Budapest. But she moved to the United States and lived in Chicago. And I just love this edition. It's one of the Junior Deluxe editions, the ones with the spines that look like this. I love them. But this one I got lucky and found one with a cover, and the cover is in great shape, so I was excited to find that last year. So those are the books that I plan to read with my son. Here's what I plan to read for Victober. Okay, so now I'm going to share with you the books that I am reading for the Victober challenges. So let me just get to my list. Okay, so Victober is a month-long celebration of Victorian literature, and Victorian literature is literature that was authored by a British or Irish author beginning from about 1837 to 1901. And the creators of Victober come together every year and they create these challenges to inspire your reading of Victorian literature. And it's a lot of fun, so I thought I would join in this year. It's their 10th year, and so they have 10 booktubers with a different challenge. I'll just read the challenge first, and then I'll show you the book that I've selected. I believe the actual creator of Victober on YouTube is Katie from Books and Things, so I'll begin with her. And her challenge was to read a work of Victorian literature that is not a novel, so a poem or a short story. And technically, if you read the poem that was in the introduction to this video, then you have completed that challenge, because I read Christina Rossetti's poem about the wind. However, I've also decided to reread The Undertakers, which is part of Rudyard Kipling's The Second Jungle Book. And the Second Jungle Book was published in 1895. The Undertakers is a short story in the Second Jungle Book, and it is so eerie. It's about a crocodile, a man-eating crocodile, and I thought it would make a great selection for October because it has sort of this eeriness to it. And I love the name, the title, The Undertakers. I thought worked very well for October as well. So that would be my short story. And I have this one illustrated by Rudyard Kipling's own father. So that will work for Katie from Books and Things Challenge. The next one is by Kate Howe from Kate Howe's channel, and her prompt was Friendship is Featured. And for Kate Howe's challenge, I decided to read Black Beauty. It's a reread, but it has been so long since I've read Black Beauty that I really need a refresher. I have this beautiful version that's illustrated by Dinah Drehurst, who's an Australian illustrator, and it was a gift to me from my aunt, and I just love it. And I love her watercolors. They really make you feel like you are in Victorian England. It's just such a beautiful book. Black Beauty has not only friendships between humans and horse, but also friendships between the horses as Black Beauty and Ginger and Merrylegs become good friends. And I've always loved those other two horses in the story. The next challenge is from Marissa from Blatantly Bookish. And her challenge is to read a work of Victorian literature that shows change in class status. And so once again, I am reading Black Beauty for that challenge. Black Beauty, the horse, also goes from belonging to owners that treat her well to owners that don't treat her well, or humans that can't afford as much. I'm not sure if Black Beauty is actually male or female. Now that I think of it, see, I need another read. So yes, Black Beauty by Anna Sewell, I think will cover both of those challenges. The next challenge is from Roz from Scallydandling About the Books, and the challenge is empire spotting, to spot signs of the empire within Victorian literature. I'm pretty sure I have that covered in The Undertakers in the second Jungle Book. The next challenge is by Elizabeth from A Literary Princess, and it is to read an underrated Victorian woman author. I have two books that I was considering for this challenge, and both of them I know about this author thanks to Kate Howe. The first one is Countess Kate, and the author is Charlotte M. Yonge. I was very, very attracted to this book when I saw it because I realized that the illustrator is Gwen Raverat, who, if you've read Period Piece, you would know Gwen Raverat. She's the author of Period Piece and illustrator of Period Piece. Period Piece is not written in Victorian times, but it is set in Victorian England. Gwen Raverat is the great-granddaughter of Charles Darwin. And so I was very excited when I realized that Countess Kate was illustrated by Gwen Raverat. Let me show you some of the illustrations. Aren't they beautiful? I just think they're lovely. Charlotte M. Yonge is an author that I had never heard of, and I think a lot of people had never heard of, so that would count for this challenge. I was also considering another one of her books that I picked up from the library, Richard the Fearless, The Little Duke. And this one's really great. The cover comes off quite easily, and so I thought I would show you guys that it's another illustrated junior library edition, which I love these. I always love those in papers. This one is illustrated by Tom O'Sullivan, and it has the characteristic one color illustration in the front as the title heading illustration, and then the interior is black and white sketches. Okay, so the next one is Hannah from Hannah's Books, and her challenge is to read a book from Victorian literature that discusses education. Countess Kate definitely has ties to education. There's a governess, I believe, in here that is a character that would meet that challenge. So this will count for two challenges. Then we have Jess from Dickens and Docs, and her challenge is to read a Victorian work set in a different era, so a Victorian work of historical fiction. This is a great challenge for me because for my classic of the month, I wanted to read another book that has a tie to Paris or to France. I was holding this one aside to read for Victober, and that is A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. And this is such a wonderful copy. I just picked it up at a local bookstore and it was less than $6 and it's illustrated. So I was so happy to find this copy, and I have not read Charles Dickens in a while. Well, outside of A Christmas Carol. I read A Christmas Carol a couple of years ago, but David Copperfield and Oliver Twist I've read, but far, far in the past. And it's about time I read another Charles Dickens, and so I wanted to pick this one up because we had gone to France and I was focusing on books set in France. And this is one of 2 historical novels that Charles Dickens wrote. The other one is Barnaby Rudge. Let me show you an illustration real quick. So there's that one, which I think is just really wonderful. I was very excited to find that there was a small paragraph on this illustrator. I'll read it real quick. Hablot Knight Brown, who lived from 1815 to 1882, better known as Phiz, was the finest book illustrator of the Victorian era. Over the course of more than 2 decades, he illustrated many Dickens works. A Tale of Two Cities was his last project with the author. So yeah, I thought that was very interesting, but very excited to read this, and it will be my classic of the month for October. The next one is from Milena Reads. Spin a color wheel and pick a book with that color on the cover. All right, here goes. Ah, indigo. Indigo. Well, I'm just going to say it's a royal blue. And I've got royal blue on A Tale of Two Cities. And I've also got royal blue on this Rudyard Kipling's Second Jungle Books. I also have another book that Mike could use, and that is Andrew Lang's The Blue Fairy Book. The next one is from Roy Reads Anything, Victorian work of fantasy. So if I do the Blue Fairy Book, that would work. So then I might do that, but the one that I was thinking about reading was The Princess and the Goblin. I've had this copy with a foreword by Ursula K. Le Guin for ages, and I've been wanting to read it. And I've been wanting to read more George MacDonald. I read his The Light Princess, but that is about it. And so I've been very excited to read this. Let me show you one of these illustrations here, and it's by Arthur Hughes, who I read did several illustrations for Christina Rossetti's works, as well as more of George MacDonald's work. I've been wanting to get to The Princess and the Goblin, but since I did spin the color wheel, the indigo blue, I'm thinking maybe the Blue Fairy Book might be the one to go with. So I'll have to decide on that. The last challenge is by Catherine from Taking Tea with Catherine, and that is The Connection to Jane Austen. Here is my connection to Jane Austen. It's this book by Rudyard Kipling. And the reason is that when Rudyard Kipling lost his son in the war, the Great War, he and his wife comforted themselves with the works of Jane Austen. And in fact, Rudyard Kipling wrote a short story called The Janeites. Now, the short story that he wrote, The Janeites, was actually written, I think, in the 1920s, something around there. So it technically is not a work of Victorian literature, but it is still the connection to Jane Austen. So that is my connection to Jane Austen, is actually The Undertakers, the short story by Rudyard Kipling, which was written in the Victorian time period. So that is it. That is what I plan to do for my Victorian reading. I'm going to just jump up and go grab my Blue Fairy Book because I might read it and it's so beautiful. Any excuse to show it to you, I'm going to take advantage of. Okay, I'm back. My Folio Society Blue Fairy Book. Always have a reason to pull this one out because it's so beautiful. But yes, so I could read this one, and it's illustrated by Charles van Sandwyk. This could be a wonderful read, and I am always happy to read Beauty and the Beast, any Beauty and the Beast telling. Some of these beautiful illustrations. So yeah, so that could work, and I think it would qualify as indigo. All right, that's it for my Victorian reads for Victober. Now I just want to show you a few other books that I am hoping to get to over the months of October and November. So outside of my read aloud plans with my son and my Victober plans, I have a stack of books that I would really like to get to as well this autumn. The first one is The Ghost Stories of Edith Wharton. Every year I love to read at least one Edith Wharton, and I have not yet gotten to Edith Wharton this year. So I was kind of saving her ghost stories to read for the season. And I really love this design on the cover. It's by Eli Kishimoto, which is a textile design company, and the name of it is Batmosphere. And I just think it's so pretty. Apparently the best of her ghost stories, the most chilling, is a story called Afterward. So I'm really looking forward to reading Afterward at the very least. This one, of course, I could just read a little bit of every season. Another book that I'd really love to read that has been on my TBR shelf forever is Anna Elizabeth Bennet's Little Witch. And this one is illustrated by Helen Stone. I've been wanting to read this for a while because it looks so cute. It's about a witch who really wants to go to school, and school is denied to her, and she eventually gets her way and goes to school. And it just sounds really cute, and it's very slim, and the illustrations just look so sweet. So I've been really looking forward to reading that, and I plan to get to that this season. Another book I'd love to read is The Little Witch by Ottfried Preussler. We read a book called The Little Ghost by Ottfried Preussler and just loved it. And so I've been really wanting to get to this one. It's so beautifully illustrated by Winnie Gebhardt-Gahler. Just the cutest illustrations, but I get the feeling that this book is set year-round. For example, there's a snowman right here. I love these illustrations. They're just so beautiful. I just love these New York Review Children's Collection books. I think they're so pretty and so well made. Another thing that I sometimes love to do is read movie scripts. I like reading the scripts and then watching the movie to see how the director or the director of photography converts what is in writing into something visual. It just is so interesting to me to watch. But anyway, one of my favorite scripts to read around this time of year is Good Will Hunting. I just love the script. As you can see, it has been well used, but I turn to it probably at least once every 2 years or so. I'll give it a good read. I've had this forever. It's just such a wonderful movie, and reading the script takes you back to that feeling of the movie. And this one is also great because it has some of the movie stills in it. So that's one that I really love to pick up in the autumn. Another author that I try to read one of every year is Mary Stewart, and I have not yet read my Mary Stewart. I was going to read Thornyhold, but it just got away from me, the year got away from me, and so now I'm kind of feeling like I want to read the Gabriel Hounds. So I thought I might try to get to the Gabriel Hounds this season and read it. So I don't know anything about what it's about, but yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it. And there she is on the back cover. I love these old vintage editions. They're so beautiful. Another book I picked up this summer in a garage sale was My Cousin Rachel by Daphne du Maurier. And I've been wanting to read this one for a very long time. So this is another one that I'm really hoping that I'll get to this autumn. My sister gave me this book several years ago, Leaves of Grass. I love this edition. I just love this sort of soft, almost padded, rubbery kind of edition. It's like faux leather, I think. I have loved this book forever, and sometimes I just page through it and read poetry from here and there. I always feel like reading Walt Whitman in the autumn for some reason. Summertime as well, but usually the autumn I gravitate towards his works. And yet another author who has lately entered my want to read one of a year status is Rumer Godden, and I have been wanting to read The River this year, and the reason is because it's the year of the snake, and it has a snake on the cover, and that's really all it's about. The synopsis on the book is not extremely clear, but it's set in India in the winter, and so I thought that would be a great book to read as we approach the winter time. So every month I have what I call my classic of the month, and I've shown you the one that I will have for October. But my classic of the month of November, I believe this year, I want to read The Scarlet Letter. And I've wanted to reread The Scarlet Letter. I apologize, I did read it in high school, but I've wanted to reread The Scarlet Letter after reading The Great Gatsby in high school, and when I read it again, I was just so amazed by it. And it became my top read of last year. So I thought I want to go through some of my high school reads and reread them. So I thought I would love to start with The Scarlet Letter. And Nathaniel Hawthorne is another one of those authors who I feel is just so autumnal. The House of Seven Gables and The Wonder Book for Children, they all have sort of this autumnal feel about them. I've visited the House of Seven Gables several times when I was living in Boston. I love it there in Salem. I might have to take you guys there one day. It's one of my favorite favorite places to visit when I go to Salem. I've got this Reader's Digest version, and oh my gosh, look at these illustrations by Robert Quackenbush. They're just beautiful. I picked this up in an antique store, and not all of them are full page. Some of them are half page, as well as black and white illustrations. But I am so excited about this version, and so I've been wanting to get to this. And finally, I have this book that my sister-in-law gifted me this summer, and it's The Thousand Doors of January. And even though it has January on it, I thought I would try to get to this in November. The main protagonist in the story's name is January, and she's a ward of the wealthy Mr. Locke, and is mostly ignored, and she finds this book one day, and that's when the adventure begins. And my sister-in-law said that I would really love it. Well, that is it. I hope you have enjoyed seeing all the books that we plan to read over the months of October and November. Before I go, I just want to express my gratitude to all of you guys for all the views and the likes and the comments, and welcome to all my new subscribers. Thank you so much. I'll be back soon with another video, so until then, I hope you enjoy the month of October. Such a gorgeous, gorgeous month, and I'll see you soon. Bye.